Welcome to the Strategic Project Leader, where we help you leverage strategic project management so you can achieve your goals. Now, here's your host, Fola Alabi.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Strategic Project Leader. Yes, it's another exciting show this morning as we're going to be talking about all things leveraging strategic project management to elevate your career and to create the life you've always craved. That's right. On the Strategic Project Leader today, it's an exciting episode because I've got two great leaders who are going to be coming to share their hearts and their souls when it comes to transitioning to landing your dream project management role. On today's episode, we're not only going to be talking about just projects, but another important piece about how exactly could you get that competitive edge to be promotable. It's one that you do not want to miss. I think you probably need to share this with a friend, a colleague, because you can need your pens and your papers to actually take notes as well. I am your host, Fola Alabi, the Strategic Project Leader. I'm a keynote speaker, a consultant, and a coach, and I empower you on a daily basis on the tools you need to create the best life you've always craved for. Project management has given me a lifestyle that I leverage in my business, in my career, and in my life. Today, I just want to take it one at a time as I bring up my wonderful guests. But before I do so, I want to know where you're actually joining me in from this morning. Thank you, Jeremy. Oh, goodness. Edgar, thanks for being here. I see you always share my post from Mexico. Great to actually see you. Today, I have selected the leaders who are actually on stage with me today. We're talking about leaders who have not just transitioned, but who have also helped elevate different individuals to land their dream roles, all through their career journey. First off, I want to talk about Jeremy. Jeremy has been devoted to career and professionalism pretty much for many decades. He was a kindergarten teacher. Do you want to believe that? And he moved from being that to landing a role in tech. He was a LinkedIn insider as well. He has written books and published articles that has helped thousands of people land their dream roles. And he's going to be doing that again on the podcast. It's with so excitement I want to present Jeremy. Jeremy, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on, Fola.
Awesome. Jeremy, before I even get it, we have another special guest. Goodness, this has been a long time coming because we went to do this before and then some things happened, but I want to talk about my next guest. Felipe, he's one that I know that he's been dedicated to HR. He's done things around the financial management, but one thing that kind of struck me with him was the fact that he puts out content. He's also supportive, and he's always there to coach, to mentor, and advocate for wellness as well. He is the vice president for human resources as well. He's a LinkedIn coach, and he's an advocate to help you become even better. My goodness, when it comes to organizational development, he's actually done this as well for decades as well. Can you please help me welcome Felipe Cofiño? Felipe, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Fola. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to be here with you and Jeremy.
Fantastic. Great to have you both. I think we probably need to get right into it because there's so much for us to dive into, and I want to take it one step at a time. First off, today we want to talk about transitioning. It is a huge leap because when people think about their roles at every stage in their career, we have had to transition, be it, doing something specifically first. Maybe it could be customer service, it could be human resources, and then you've decided, I want to do something different. Or maybe I want to just be promoted. It's still a transition. How do we handle that transition first? I'm going to start with you, Jeremy, because I know that you were a kindergarten teacher and you moved on to landing a role in tech. How did you do that?
Yeah, great question, Fola. And I think
Felipe, can you still there? I don't know if Jeremy is actually frozen.
Still here. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, you froze for a moment? Okay, great. Jeremy's right back. Okay.
Basically, people might think, oh my goodness, how do you make these transitions? I feel so stuck in my current role. But the reality is that careers are not linear. I think Felipe can tell you this and Fola can tell you this. Careers are long and winding. And so it's totally fine to say, hey, maybe I'm not happy today, but I can start taking small steps in the direction of where I want to be tomorrow. In my case, I didn't go right from teaching kindergarten to working at Apple and LinkedIn. First, then I had a chance to work in social enterprise. And so I sort of built up my credentials step by step over the course of my career. And I think for anyone else out there, give yourself the permission to experiment, to try new things, not to feel like you have to make it big in your very next role.
Fantastic. I'm going to jump right into Felipe. You haven't been, through the ranks. You've helped people move up, from coordinator to PMs and stuff. How can we start and make a transition? What's the first step?
The first step sometimes is just simply talking to, a leader, to human resources about the interest that you want to pursue, but also look at what options the company offers. Every company I've worked for has had some level of cross-training program to allow you to try to work in a different department to see how you work, but it also gives the department manager almost like a working interview with you to see how you pick up things and how quickly you adapt to it. And so getting that exposure and showing your interest, we don't know what we don't know. So if you don't say you're interested, the days of people coming to employees and saying, I want to promote you, that doesn't really happen anymore. We want you to come to us and say you're interested, that you have passion for it, and that you're eager to learn. And so that's one of the first steps. After that, kind of like Jeremy said, doing your own things, to help upskill yourself, learning new skills, up certifications, trying to meet people on LinkedIn that are in the field that you want to learn and learn from them. So that's just a starting point, I would say. I could go on a lot more, but I'll just stop there.
Definitely. That's definitely great. I think it's absolutely critical for anyone listening who is thinking about the next move. What does that look like? For me, again, I manage this like a project, right? Because me being a project leader, I see every change like a project. So it starts with, where exactly do I want to go? What is that goal first? It is to land a job. Okay, you need to make sure that's pretty clear. Identifying what that is and understanding what is even needed for this actual role. Like Jeremy has said, he made a leap from being a kindergarten teacher to working for the big names in tech. It didn't just happen overnight. He had a plan. He may not have had it like on Microsoft projects, but he may have actually written something down or maybe scribbled it down. Even as Felipe has said, you need to talk to someone, but think about it like a project, right? You identify the goal, and then you need to now take a step to say, what do I need to get me there? I won't go any further for now, but I want to dive in now to Jeremy. So now we have a goal. We know that it's going to take baby steps to get us to where we want to get to. However, I want to give an example of, let's say, a young project manager or an aspiring PM who feels that I don't have a clue where to start right now, right? I think I have some skills that I could leverage, but what do I do? What do I do? Do I just go on and do more trainings and just keep learning and it just gets more complicated? How did you stack it up for yourself, Jeremy?
Yeah, so I will give you my path, but I also want to talk about what I would have done if I was doing it today. So in my case, it was really trial and error, kind of like Felipe was saying, getting out there and talking to different people. What is it like to work in tech? What does it mean to be a product manager versus a project manager? And I think that's totally fine. But if you want to expedite your search today, one thing I've been really excited about recently is how powerful ChatGPT can be to help you sort of get focused. Because if you were to go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm really organized, I'm incredibly efficient, I'm good at delegating, what are some opportunities to leverage those skills? It could start to spit out a couple of career paths. Maybe take a course here, upskill there, to Felipe's point. And then all of a sudden you kind of have your own career coach in a box giving you a little guidance to accelerate that journey.
Oh my goodness, you brought in ChatGPT already. That was pretty early. But the fact is, there's so many tools that we can definitely leverage right away that can help just stack it up for you and accelerate, because that's what we really want to do. And so identifying the path as to, yes, it's easier to probably just be a business analyst, for instance, and say, you may not be able to manage a project right away, but you may be able to start as like a coordinator or a support analyst where you get in and do some daily tasks and supporting the PM. You understand the ropes, then you can create that path. Felipe, when we think about that, where we now know that there is maybe like multi-layers to get to that actual project manager role, And now, like ChatGPT has now said, okay, you can start as a business analyst. And then you're like, goodness, this is like another extra layer on top of that. How do you just navigate this? Well, I won't call it complicated, but the whole path to still get you to that destination. What are the next steps you need to take?
Well, like Jimmy said, it's a journey. So I always say, first of all, you're in the driver's seat of your career path. So make sure that you are the one who's making the decisions, because no one's gonna. If someone else is driving your car, they're going to take you where they want to go. So make sure you know what you want. But I think next steps are also looking at, you got to start somewhere. Like I said, if it's not the ideal job, you got to start somewhere. I wanted to get into human resource when I was in the operations of a hotel industry. I took a job as a admin assistant in human resources, even though I had a degree in it. That was the opportunity to get my foot in the door. So I'm not saying that's always the case, but don't look over the simple opportunities to get your foot in the door, especially if it's with the company you want to get into or if the company you want to stay with. Now, other things you can do though to really help yourself is, if you're okay, let's say project management. Let's just take that for example. I had an employee who was in the branches. They had shown that they had interest in project management. We had no openings for it at all. They took the initiative to start getting their project management certification. All right. Now, at the end of it, we paid for it for them. So we supported it once we saw that how hard they were working, the fact that we had a need for it. Once we had the position available and posted it, he was a prime candidate for it. We helped him get his PMP. He got in there and he hit the ground running. Today, he's helping us with an entire upgrade of our entire core system. And he's done a phenomenal, it's been a year-long project, and he's done a phenomenal job. So it's sometimes you got to start crawling before you walk. He started off in the branches as a branch teller, basically, knowing that he might have an opportunity to grow. So keep your eyes open. Talk to people, know what the career paths look like, and just get on the right road.
I love that. I love the fact that you said, start from somewhere. It's, they say Rome wasn't built in a day. And it's great to say, I want to become, that project director, that project manager, and that's great. But having a path to get you there is absolutely critical. Philippe, Jeremy, I want us to talk about transferable skills, because again, that's another angle, right? Because when you look at your career mapping, as you said, like ChatGPT can say, you can do, all of this other great stuff. However, how can you leverage what you already have? Because there's no point going back to, let's say, now I want to go back and read all of these courses again and start all over. There's some experience that we can already leverage, Jeremy. How can we dive into that and capture those transferable skills and leverage them in landing our dream roles?
So true, Fola. I think the biggest thing standing in the way of career change is imposter syndrome. This idea that therefore I can never be a project manager. And yet the reality is that when you boil down project management, it's a series of skills that people probably have to do in almost every job. Organization, delegation, make you great at customer success, make you great at sales. And so what I always challenge job seekers to do is look at the job description and then, as an example, when I was a kindergarten teacher, my resume was full of helped kids learn to read, made parents really happy, all that good stuff that was important for that role. But it wasn't marketing and communications and all the things I want to do in the tech sector. However, when I looked at that first job description from Apple, I realized communication, storytelling, persuasion, influence, those were things I was doing every single day in my classroom. I just wasn't using that language. So please never get caught up in imposter syndrome. Instead, recognize that it's up to you, as Felipe said, to translate what you've done into the language that the next world will understand. And if you can do that really powerfully, you can open those doors for yourself.
100%. I love that. It's all about the language. You need to speak the lingo of where exactly you're going. You know what I mean? It's like you talk about communication, stakeholder management. You talk about strategy, you talk about execution. You have been managing projects in different ways and shapes or forms, but you're just not saying the right words. And so it's absolutely critical that you go off. And I tell people, I'm like, you don't even need to apply for thousands of jobs. No, you can apply for 5 and get the 5 interviews. If you're actually tailoring your resume and your experience exactly to what the actual hiring manager actually wants. And then I talk about something, I say, think about yourself being the hiring leader, and we're going to get to that. You've spoken about the language, right? If you were the one hiring for this position, what would you want? And then I made this analogy. I had a workshop and I spoke about like dating, right? Think about, when a guy and a girl, you're actually dating, right? Everyone kind of wants like the hottest girl or the hottest bloke on the block, right? The hiring manager wants to get the best candidate as well, right? Who wants to get a trashy candidate? And so the only way to demonstrate that, it's all about demonstratable experience. What exactly can you prove that you are capable of achieving for the organization based on past experience? How can you demonstrate that? And so, Felipe, because I know that you have got a great HR background as well, and you're right there, you hire and you fire as well. What are those key things that, hiring leaders are looking for consistently so that we can ensure that these project managers and business leaders can ensure that they are tailoring directly to that actual job role, Felipe?
Well, that's a great question, Paula. And I think, every hiring manager has probably got their own style, but there are some consistencies there that all of them have. Some of them, first and foremost, you can't train attitude. First and foremost, you cannot train someone to have a positive attitude, to be, that have that passion, that either have that or not. But going back to what Jeremy was saying, I just want to highlight that because, looking at those transferable skills on a job description is so key, because so many times people think they don't have them, or they're like, oh, they're using this word, but I have that skill. That's great. Make sure that you are using those like key words when you're speaking about it, when you're writing about it, when you're applying for it, because you need to let them know. The hiring manager is going to look for keywords that you have skills with. So if you have organizational skills, attention to detail, if you have conflict resolution skills, these are all skills that are transferable in any job almost. So having those ability to communicate effectively is so key. Now, hiring managers are going to always look for, obviously, people that come from the recruiter, but they're also going to have people that they are looking for on LinkedIn and people that just reach out to them naturally. A few things to look for is making sure that you have, obviously, a clear resume that is very has the right keywords in it, so they know that you have the skills that they're looking for. But also, we're looking for people that have good longevity in their jobs. I'll tell you right now, one of the biggest concerns that my hiring managers have is when I find a good candidate has good experience, they stay their jobs for 8 months. I don't think they're going to stay with us. And that's a valid point. And I agree with them, because at the end of the day, we want someone that's going to stay with us. Now, if I see someone that's been working at one job for 5 years and then the next job they stayed at 8 months, that's okay. But when the last 3 jobs have been like 6, 8, 9 months, I'm sorry. That's a concern that tells me when you hit a difficult challenge, instead of addressing it and working and figuring out a plan to fix that project, maybe you decide to quit and run. I don't want someone like that on my team. I need someone that's dedicated, that's going to see the project through. And even if they run into a brick wall, they could be creative enough to figure it out themselves or ask people to find out other ideas and collaborate. So again, looking at someone that has the ability to navigate through difficult challenges, has the ability to really lead and be a team player. That's the other thing. Team player is a very hard thing to demonstrate on a resume. So having the ability to share how you worked on projects, because when you sit there and say, I did this, I did that. All right, well, you're not necessarily a team player. You're talking just about you. Whereas we as a team accomplished this great goal. We did this, and I led this team. That's fine. If you led the team, that's wonderful. But make sure that you let them know that you collaborated with other departments, other key stakeholders to make success. Because that's something that if you aren't a team player, it's another red flag for us. So I'll stop there because I could go on for a laundry list of things, but those are probably the main ones that I think highlight. And again, every hiring manager is different, so they're going to have unique things, but there are those commonalities that you should look for. And keep in mind that LinkedIn, there are hiring managers out there. So if you get a way to showcase any of your skills through text of showing your knowledge, that you're knowledgeable about project management, or doing a video, or even just putting out information about a project you shared and do a story about it, some storytelling about projects you completed and why they were challenging and what made it successful. That's a huge thing that allows people to know that you have skills, that you've done it, and they can see it on LinkedIn.
100%. I love that. We're talking about demonstratable experience, right? We live in an age now where you can pretty much create your own resume online. I say your resume is beyond just a piece of paper that you actually show up with, and apply for. Your resume is actually you, how you show up on LinkedIn, even on Facebook, on Instagram. Everything you do is your actual resume. You are showcasing your skills, your talents, and people are actually watching. I tell people, I'm like, more people are watching than you can actually ever imagine. The fact that you put a post out there and no one gives you a like or a comment doesn't mean that people haven't actually looked at it. So it's absolutely critical that you are intentional about how you show up everywhere. And I love the fact that Felipe has actually mentioned about sharing those little stories, the project you worked on, and even your aspiration, right? You could actually be a teacher now saying that, goodness, I teach kids, I've done this other project, but I've got a passion to like do multi-million-dollar initiatives and projects. And this is kind of how I feel that I could actually do it. Being a team player, I talk about this like power skills. The PMR have actually changed this kind of soft skill lingo to more about power skills, because these skills are absolutely critical. I know that I had a director years ago who said, you can teach anyone anything. It's, Felipe has said, but those soft skills, they're so hard. Even when you have like the best people who are technically sound, and it's just like so horrible to work with. You're like, oh my goodness, how can I deal with this person again? But when you've got the technical skills, you've got the power skills, gosh, the sky is your starting point, not even your limit. Jeremy, now with that in mind, I know you've actually used AI and you've used different tools. I want to really walk through your transition. You made that step. You looked at, what the industry wanted. I want you to address things about looking at the future, because I know you're like very, very forward thinking, because I tell candidates that beyond just applying for this job is thinking more strategic. Think beyond even being a project manager in that particular box to say, where organization's going? What are the trends? How can I become that unique person that is not just going to come in and just manage projects, but also add an extra value, that extra add-on? And so, Jeremy, how can we create that futuristic perspective as we search for roles and do things to help us stand out from everybody else? What can we do? How can we leverage AI or anything else? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, it goes back to what we've been talking about in terms of just like a good project manager. If you're project managing your career, you've got to start with a clear goal, a clear North Star. And so I don't think that anyone should waste time on ChatGPT or LinkedIn just to check a box. I think it should always be a tool in pursuit of something very specific. That being said, let me give you an example. Let's say that you are thinking about, how do I become one of the world's top project managers? One thing you could do is you could actually start to do two things. Number one, you could start to use ChatGPT to kind of pressure test your project plans. So maybe you put in your project plan, you say, where are the holes in my plan and my strategy? Are there any things that might lead to red flags down the road? And you'll be surprised, because again, it's building upon petabytes and petabytes of past data. It may identify things that even the best project managers didn't notice. And then this is the important thing, to Felipe's point, start to share out what you're learning. If you just learn something for yourself, that's great. But if you want to become a thought leader in the project space, someone like Fola that people look up to and want to learn from, you've got to pay it forward. And that means writing a little blog post about it on LinkedIn, or making a post or making a video to make all the project management community wiser and smarter, just like you are. So if you can both learn and share, I think that's the winning recipe.
I love it. Learning and sharing, right? I think that's actually key. But I love the fact that we can actually leverage tools currently that we have to actually create that better platform to even be better, because there's no one who knows it all. People can feel that, oh gosh, that person has 20 years of experience and 30 years. There's always something else to learn. And so leveraging the tools, and I'm going to definitely try that and say, ChatGPT, like, where are the holes in this particular piece, and see what it actually comes up with. I didn't think about that. But the thing is, thinking about the future, and I want to tie back in when it comes to even like sustainability. We talk about technology. You showing up as just a project manager means you're going to be just like everyone else in the pile. What extra piece have you got that the organization may not even be thinking about right now that they may need to be aware of? And so, are you going to be a PM who definitely like leverages artificial intelligence as well as being a great construction leader? What makes you extra special? That's where we want to get to, because you do not want to be just another resume. You do not want to be just another number. You want to be one that's going to stand out for something unique And uncovering that is one thing that is going to make you definitely one that people want to work with and people want to be part of. And I want to go to Felipe. With that in mind, how can we uncover that genius in us? Because I feel that everyone has something special, has something unique, because you think about the world, even in the next 40 billion years, there's no one that's going to have a fingerprint. That tells us something. There's something that Felipe brings to the table. There's something that Jeremy brings to the table, that Fowler brings to the table, that no one else can actually bring to the table. And how can we tailor that now back into our career and show up with that so that we become extra special when it comes to that role? I remember reading a piece around Atomic Habits a couple of days ago, where he said, it's beyond just the habits you get. You want to combine so many things that helps you like stand out from everyone else. So I want to get your thoughts on that, Felipe. For someone who's aspiring as a project manager, or maybe you want to be a PM who wants to become a project director, become a VP just like you, Felipe, how can they differentiate themselves so that they can actually even be promotable?
Well, and I think one of the key things is how do you stand out in the sea of so many other talented people? And that's really a challenge. But I think we've been touching on a lot of those points, and I'm going to share a few, but I want to highlight the fact that when you talk about social media, as a recruiter, I'll tell you right now, every candidate I look at, I immediately go to LinkedIn after I see the resume to see what's on there. Now, you want to stand out? Post something, put out content. That's going to see. Do you have to? Absolutely not. But is it going to make you stand out when I look at your profile? Because when I go to LinkedIn or other social medias, I just want to verify that the information is accurate. That's my ultimate goal. If I see that you're putting out content, I'm going to look at it. If it's content that supports what you're trying to do, you're going to stand out to me. I'm going to look at you as a thought leader. So that's a huge thing. Using anything that helps you stand out, staying with the times, understanding what topics are out there. ChatGPT, huge one. Look, people think, oh, it's going to replace jobs. It's going to replace jobs. They're scared. I jumped on that. I wanted to understand it myself. So I started learning about it. I'd rather learn about something than not ignore it because I'm scared of it. So when I started learning about it, I found out that this is a tool that's going to replace skills more than replace jobs. If you think about it, jobs evolve over time. They always evolve. Think about when you started your job, however long ago it did to today, it probably has changed. It's going to change. And so with that mindset, the mindset's key. Look at opportunities to stand out by having that ability to take innovation like ChatGPT and find out how you can use it. Can you use it to find out what skills you have that will work well with certain jobs? Sure, but it's not just that. You can do so much more in the job. It's a time saver. It's ability to teach you things that you didn't know you had. I am not a marketing person by any means. I fell into employment branding because of ChatGPT and because of Canva and social media. I taught myself skills because I wanted to promote things better for candidates to hear about our company at Signal. Well, through that experience, I learned new skills. So if you play around with it and use ChatGPT, if you're not a great writer, writing is not my skill set. It's not my strongest skill set. So guess what? When I write posts, I write it through ChatGPT or maybe Grammarly to fix the spelling and the grammar because that is not my strength. So tap into your strengths. My strengths are more about visual, video, photography, sending the message about learning with recruitment and HR and workplace. When you don't have the strong skills, go out there and learn them. And that's going to make you stand out, because at the end of the day, whatever you put out there and whatever you do, if it's knowledgeable, if it's got some good meat to it, people are going to gravitate and see that you are knowledgeable about it, and it'll make you stand out to hiring managers and recruiters.
I think that's great. Just to let everyone know, make sure you have a question. We're going to have a hot seat as well. You're going to have a chance to ask Felipe or Jeremy any question that you have. These guys are definitely like, they're like a big deal. So you have a chance to ask and get your questions answered. So just keep going, put in the comments, and someone will be picked to have their questions answered. I love that. And for me as well, I want us to get into just the future, because people say, you know, what's happening? I say the future is now. But within every role and how you sit and how you show up daily is trying to understand what 10 years is going to look like and start planning for it today. I remember seeing Bezos' letters to his shareholders from years ago. He pretty much was painting the future. Everything he was talking about is what is actually achieved today. And just the same way you look at your career, it is a project It's your project. You need to think about what does 10 years look like and have that end in mind. And you're going to like walk even backwards and say, yes, in 10 years, do you see yourself as maybe the vice president of a product department? Do you want to run your own business? Whatever that looks like. What skill set do you need even in 10 years? And how can you start building that today? Because what people don't realize is that even when you're hiring for a role now, you need to be operating at least 2 levels ahead of where you are. So even if you want to land the role as a project manager, you need to be thinking about what a project director already does in their role. You need to understand what your lingo is. You need to be seen as that extra secret sauce, because that's exactly what it is. And so being that futuristic leader is another layer on how you can actually stand out from everybody else. So think about it. I love Jeremy said, think about the goal you want to achieve. Think about the tools you want to actually leverage. And Felipe has now said, think about those soft skills. Think about everything else you can pull in. And oh goodness, I always say, leverage your strengths. There's even no point trying to like overwork those weaknesses. We have a lot of it. And then you're just trying to fixate around that. We definitely just pull you back. But now I want to come to Jeremy. You have leveled up and got into tech. What else? What are the steps that you took? I know you said, you planned for it and all that. What else can people leverage today who want to make that transition? Who want to land their dream roles? What exactly can they also do beyond just the other soft skills that they have to learn, like social media? What else can they do?
Yeah, so I think at this point, we can get really tactical and say, hey, if you've done your homework, you know exactly where you want to be from talking to professionals on the inside, like Felipe said. You've built out a perfect resume, maybe leveraging ChatGPT, leveraging job descriptions to speak the language of being an insider versus an outsider. Now the question is, what does the data say is the most effective way to be hired? And it's super clear. Times more likely to be hired if you are referred by an insider than if you apply cold as an outsider. Doesn't mean that if you apply cold, you have no chance of getting in, but it's a pretty sort of tough lottery to be in versus already being in that sort of winning category of blessed resumes from the inside. And why is that? Well, if you're a recruiter, why do you want to put your reputation on the line for a totally random person from the outside that you don't know when you have someone who's already been vouched for by someone on the inside? Just human nature. And so what I would highly recommend that folks do is once they have a target company in the mind, if they want to work at Signal or if they want to work at Khan Academy, find someone on the inside that you can build a relationship with. And the beauty of LinkedIn is it's not just a random person. Maybe it's someone who went to your same school, who worked at the same former employer as you. Maybe you have a mutual friend in common, a second degree connection, as LinkedIn calls it. All of a sudden, you've got your foot in the door, chance to have a conversation that maybe leads the way to a referral. And so I know it seems daunting. It's like, oh, I don't know anyone at the company. I'm doomed. But no way. There's always a way in if you're willing to work hard for it.
I love the fact that you said that. There's always a way in. But I want to dig a little bit deeper because we know we see these titles on LinkedIn. But I have people that I had to coach as well to say, oh goodness, I want to connect with Felipe, but I just sent a friend request and didn't actually accept my request to Jeremy. I'm like, did you even put a note? Did you write anything, or you just went cold? You know what I mean? I'm like, what exactly can they do to ensure that they can actually get any connection they want? Jeremy.
Yeah, so this is really important. Now, even as a former LinkedIn employee, and I would love nothing more than to have everyone go out there and buy LinkedIn Premium and pay money to me as a Microsoft shareholder. But in good conscience, I can't do that. I will tell you the dirty little secret of LinkedIn, which is a lot of people are just not that active on the site, which makes sense. They say, I'm going to use LinkedIn when I'm looking for a job, never the rest. But what are they checking every single day if they're not checking LinkedIn? They're checking their professional email the same way that we all have to. And so I would say, go out there and find a tool like hunter.io and look up their actual email address and reach out to them with a real message and not just, hey, let's connect, because that's kind of a dead end. And so again, it takes more work. You've got to be a little savvier, but we all know if you are willing to put in a little bit of extra effort, as Felipe said, you can stand out in the crowded marketplace.
Fantastic. I'm going to dive there and we're going to come back to that. Remember that hunter.io, that's a tool that you can use to uncover the email addresses of those people on LinkedIn. Okay. Now, Felipe, I know you want to say something there as well.
Yeah, no, I love what Jeremy. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you gonna say something, Paula?
No. I'm going to go right here. I'm just saying that when it comes to really getting those connections, because a lot of people don't realize that LinkedIn and social media has made it easy to like get those connections and win business deals and build relationships. How can people get those connections pretty easy? Have you got any tips as well?
Absolutely. And Jeremy is right. The reality is that not everyone's on LinkedIn, but you can find out if they are active. And so what I always tell people is, first and foremost, again, do not send a blind connect request, because especially if you've never had any previous history with them, if you never, like, people who have attended my audio rooms and they blind connect with me, if they were on stage and I recognize them, okay, that's fine, because I have an association. But if I didn't see them, I didn't recognize them, I'm not inclined to always connect right away. So what you can do is, I always preach this when I'm coaching or to anyone that's looking for jobs. I over the years have gotten a lot of connections because I'm a recruiter. I'm out there. I'm out there trying to connect with people to hire, right? But if somebody wants to reach out to me, or if I want to reach out to somebody, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the profile. I'm going to look at the profile and see if they're even active, to Jeremy's point. If they posted in the last week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, great. They're on there. They're active. Secondly, I'm going to send a personalized connection request. I'm going to let them know why I want to connect with them. Hey, I looked at your profile. I see you worked at Signal. I really love some of the content you're putting out there. I would love to connect. Stroke their ego a little bit. Tell them you like their content. They're more likely to connect with you. It's human nature. Secondly, start commenting. Commenting is so powerful on LinkedIn, not because of the algorithm. Forget the algorithm. It's about standing out again. You stand out to the content creator. If you comment on my post, I guarantee you I'm going to see you and I'm going to notice you. You are going to stand out to me because not everyone comments. So the likes, I'll be honest, do I look at every single person that likes every single one of my posts? No, I don't always have the time to do that. But the comments, I always reply. So if you do that and I'm a recruiter and all of a sudden you send me a DM or you apply for my job, that name association is going to be key. And guess what? I'm more inclined to talk to you now. Just like Jeremy said, or I don't know if it was Jeremy or Fola, about the inside person. That inside person is going to have an easier time getting an interview than the outside person. Now, don't get me wrong. If I have an inside candidate, I'm excited that somebody knows them, but I'm going to bring out people from the outside to make sure that they have options, because, I want to make sure they hire the best qualified candidate. But if you have that connection, you're going to get probably at least an 80% higher chance of getting an interview because you have that connection. And doesn't mean you have to be best friends. That DM with the hiring manager, I've had so many people say, I met someone on LinkedIn. Can you reach out to them? I think they're going to apply. Here's their name. Great. That happened to me actually on Thursday. I have somebody for one of my positions that someone met on LinkedIn, and I'm going to interview them on Tuesday. So that's the power of building connections, building relationships. It's not just blind people. If I don't know you at all and you want to connect with me, I need to know why. And I'm going to look at your profile and I see nothing in common, no reason why, not even like you like Star Wars and Star Trek, then I'm not going to connect with you, and that's fine. But I'm going to look for something that's a commonality. And that's the beginning stages, because then if you send a separate DM to them, they're more likely to respond. And to Jeremy's point, most people, if you click on the contact information, they got an email in there. You can use that email to try a different route as well, even if they're not active. So they're not active people, look at their contact information. Don't call their phone number. If they have their phone numbers in there, I never recommend people have their phone numbers in there. Don't call them on the phone, but go ahead and send them an email if that's another avenue. Just don't do it all at once. Don't comment, DM, and email. Comment, wait, and then see if they respond. If they respond, great. Then DM, wait. So just be patient. I know you're excited, but be patient. In time will come, and that's going to help you stand out. And that's going to be a meaningful connection that even if something didn't work out now, it might pay off later on in the future. Because I'm sorry, one more thing I'm going to say is if you sent me a message and I didn't have an opening, but all of a sudden 8 months later, I have an opening and you send me another message, I see that I have a history in my messages with you. Guess what? That makes me feel like I have more of a connection with you because we have actually chatted at some level. So just keep that in mind too.
Fantastic. That is a wonderful segue for project lifestyle. We've been talking about transitioning. We've been talking about how exactly we can actually leverage people, resources, technology, and everything in between. And today we want to think about transitions as well, even in our personal life. Jeremy and Felipe have tied back into the fact around value. Overall, in all of this, be it from commenting on a post, be it from trying to reach out. It's all about how you can demonstrate value. How do people see you and how do you show up as a value add? And I want you to be very intentional about this. And as you go off into our daily lives, is how are you showing up as a unique value add at home or at work? Are you someone who just says, yeah, I'm just going to show up anyway. I'm going to do the minimal stuff and just walk away? Or are you one who's going to say that I want to put in that extra piece? I want to keep developing myself because I want to be better. I tell people that the outcome you get from your 9 to 5 is based on what you do from your 5 to 9. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes intentional learning, training, identifying what your core values are and working towards it. I want you to think about these actual steps. Go away and do a self-assessment today, even after this particular podcast, and think about it. How exactly can I show up as a unique value? You need to uncover what are the things I'm so good at. What do you do that comes natural for you? And how can you bring that back into the workplace, even in your personal life? You need to work so hard at, as Felipe spoke about writing, and just like me, I don't really enjoy writing that much. But so it's something that I have to do anyway. But I double down on the areas that I know that I am great at. I can speak, I can support, I can do like strategy, I can do all the execution piece. And so think about that really well and take steps so that when you bring that even into your career search, in your personal life, you show up as the person that everyone wants to be around with. Because there's no point wasting time on trying to keep fixing and working so much on those weaknesses. That's great. But doubling down on those things that you're good at and showing up as that unique value add every single day at work and at home is what makes the difference. Every organization, they want the best candidate. Even if you're at home with your spouse, with your kids, they want someone, who's going to be there to help and support and make things happen. And I hope you can challenge yourself and do a self-assessment and review and say, what exactly am I great at? Where is my zone of genius? And how can I show up with that and help me stand out from the crowd and everybody else? Now I want to quickly go back to Jeremy. We think about that and unique value adds. How can we uncover this? And how can we leverage this in other aspects as well, Jeremy?
Yeah, that's such an important thing. And I think whether you're starting your career, whether you're midway through your career, it's critical to step back and say, hey, how do moment where it's not just here's a way to make money, but here's a way to do things that I'm really great at. Here's a way to work on things that are meaningful. And if you can find the union of those 3 circles, you're going to be really successful in everything you do. And so what I would encourage people to do is almost take a little inventory, almost like, again, a project manager applying those techniques to your own lifestyle to say, where do I find myself getting energy? What am I looking forward to doing every single day? Maybe it's that signal that I'm getting about, wow, I'm actually much more drawn to independent work or group work. How can I make sure that I'm playing to that strength again and again, as opposed to this obsession we have in Western society of, oh, I always have to sort of compensate for my weaknesses. I always have to learn to code or learn to be a better public speaker, even though that's not my zone of genius to fullest point. And I think if people were A, clearer about what they're great at, and B, gave themselves the permission to pursue that, as opposed to let me always cover up from what I'm bad at, we would all be a lot happier as a society.
Fantastic. Felipe, what are your thoughts on that?
So I always say, don't try to be somebody else. Only you can do you. And at the end of the day, you can do you better than anybody else can. So figure out, like Jeremy said, what are you passionate about? What matches your core values? When you think about the kind of person you want to be, is what you're pursuing helping you achieve that? If it is, then like Jeremy said, look at it as like a project. Write it down. I'm a big fan of documenting your goals using the SMART acronym. If you don't know about the SMART acronym, just Google SMART acronym for goals. You'll see it. It's very easy. But I'll tell you right now, I started achieving probably 80% more of my goals just from writing them down and using that acronym and making sure that they matched my values. And I saw the potential of the future of where it was going to take me. I saw how it married with maybe my work skills and how it might help me at work, how it's going to help me at home, and how personally I just felt like I was growing and developing. Because at the end of the day, we're all ongoing learners. None of it, unless you choose to stop learning, you will always continue to learn. So it's what you do with that ability that matters. So if you take that ability, drive and let your curiosity fuel you. Let the curiosity of finding things out. Are you curious about ChatGPT? Go look into it. If it's not for you, that's fine. But I'll be hard pressed to say I'll be surprised if you don't find a way to use it to help you save time. Time for a question?
That's right. It's time for a question. And I know some of the questions are not coming through, but I have a question right here. The question is, how can you leverage your internal boss? How can you win them over to help you land your next role? And that question goes to Jeremy.
I think one of the most important things that you can do in terms of being successful in the workplace is to always apply that superpower of empathy, not just to focus on your own needs, your own desires, but hey, what's motivating us? And if you can understand what their goals are, or they held accountable, what are they trying to achieve in their own personal project plan, you can actually make sure that the work that you're doing is better aligned with that. So one thing I recommend for all new hires is don't just come in and say, hey, what's my job? Say, what's your job? What are you held accountable for? And how can I help you be successful? And I think if you have that level of empathy and understanding with other people, as well as with yourself, you're going to be a lot more successful.
Fantastic. I love that. I always talk about it. I learned this many years ago. A friend of mine told me that when you get into a role, it's about how can I make you look good? That's what forget a job description. You are there to ensure that your boss is successful, period. And so when you look at it that way, you are going to just be able to go to bed and sleep at night because they're going to be excited and you're going to be excited. The next question, Felipe. The question now is, for people who have got a totally different background, how can they totally switch from a totally different discipline to another one? What strategies can they actually leverage to do a total switch?
Well, I mean, obviously, part of that is having the right connections and networking, and then obviously upskilling in those areas that you want to switch to. If you know you want to switch into a totally different area, start looking at it. Start learning those skills before you switch. Don't quit your job and say, that's it. I'm going to go into mechanics and you're in accounting. Okay. Learn about those skills first. Make sure that you get some experience under your belt, get some certifications, take some classes, whatever you can do so that people know that you're serious about it. And then once you get a job, then quit your old one. Okay. Do not do that to yourself, but make sure that you're upskilling, gain the certifications, and connect with people that are out there that have the job that you want already. Learn from them. If they're putting out content, learn from them. Build relationships with them. Just like Jeremy was saying with your manager, manage up and learn and build relationships. Communication styles are so key with any relationship you build. Understanding people's communication styles, whether they're an employee, a manager, or a potential coworker, you want to make sure that you understand that everyone has different communication styles, and learning how people like to be communicated with is more effective in being able to get into that area that you want to get into.
Fantastic. It's been so great today. And I want to say, what would be your final words and how can people connect with you, Jeremy?
Yeah, so I think the big takeaway from today is just that you have more power at your fingertips than you realize. You may feel stuck in a current job, or it may feel so daunting to break into a new one. And yet, just like Felipe's talked about and Fola's talked about, you have all this zone of genius within you, and you have all this opportunity outside you. So whether it's leveraging your network, leveraging ChatGPT, leveraging LinkedIn, playing to your strengths, all of those are ways to start taking those first baby steps towards where you want to be. So I just wish you all tremendous success on that journey.
Fantastic. And how can people connect with you, Jeremy?
Oh, and obviously LinkedIn as a former LinkedIn employee is always the best way. So happy to connect.
Fantastic. And Felipe as well. What are your final words for us today?
My final words are, make sure that you are continuously remembering that you are the driver's seat of your career. It's your career, and make sure that you decide what you want to do. Let people know where you want to go, and make sure that it's clear for not just you, but for others. And make sure that you it is a journey. So make sure that you remember you're not entitled to anything off the bat. You have to work for it. Whatever you put into it is what you'll get out of it. And as far as connecting with me, LinkedIn as well. That's my main platform of choice. You'll definitely find me there daily. And yeah, that's the best place. Or of course, at Signal Financial, I'll be there as well.
Fantastic. I just want to say thank you so much to Jeremy for being here, to Felipe, taking your time and spending the morning with us. It's been a great pleasure. Oh my goodness. And to everyone who was here live, all the comments, Sebastian, Tarika, Jeremiah. I just see the names keep coming on. Even people, Sebastian, I got Oluwatosin as well was there. I want to just say thank you so much, Gito Edge. It's been a great pleasure. But everything I always say every single day is always remember that it doesn't matter where you are at, the stage in your career or in your life, because life is in seasons. But the key is to remember that life in and of itself is a project, and you are your life's project manager, and you are the best project you can actually ever work on. Take steps daily, intentionally, to achieve those goals that you've always wanted. But it's up to you. It's never going to be handed over to you on a platter. I wish that exactly would have been the case. But once you're intentional, I can almost assure you that it will definitely come even way beyond what you ever thought or imagined. Take steps today. Remember, same time next week, we're going to be having a great leader. We're going to have the Chief of Staff of PMI. She's going to be coming to share about how you can land and get up to C-suite. She did it as a project manager and land at the very top position as well. And she has a massive portfolio. You do not want to miss it. Log on and make sure you share with a friend. I always say, when you get a good idea, when you get something great, make sure you share with someone. Let someone know that you got something, and let me know in the comments one key thing you're going to be taking away and you're going to be taking action on. Once again, I want to say thank you so much to Jeremy. I want to say thank you so much to Felipe. It's been a great pleasure. Goodness, I cannot even say thank you enough. Thank you so much, and see you all next week at SIG time. Bye-bye.